Welcome back to another episode of Press Play, Media Strategies from Scot Media Tulsa. I'm your host, Jeromee Scot. Today we're talking about a fun yet kind of crucial topic, which is how to spot the signs of AI-generated content, and more importantly, how you can make sure your content doesn't fall into that trap. AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude are really great at saving time and helping you brainstorm ideas, but they can leave behind little clues that lets everyone know that your content was written by AI. So we're going to talk about what some of those signs are, and we're going to show how you can tweak your content to make it sound authentically you. We'll talk about that ahead on this episode of Press Play.
Is your young athlete ready for the spotlight? Game Ready. Media training for aspiring athletes is the ultimate guide to help them shine in today's intense media world. Written by Emmy-winning journalist Jeromee Scot, this ebook teaches athletes how to build a strong personal brand, master social media etiquette, and handle interviews with confidence. Download your copy by visiting the Scot Media Tulsa digital bookstore on Etsy. Every book also comes with free templates you can use to help you on your media journey. Visit scotmediatulsa.com to learn more. That's Scot with one T, scotmediatulsa.com.
I'm really excited to be back for another episode, and I want to say right off the bat, this is my actual voice. So if you listen to my last podcast episode, I was very open and upfront about it, that the entire episode was done with my AI voice clone. So I've been kind of experimenting with AI ever since I got my AI certification. And one of the things I wanted to try was using AI voiceovers. So the promo, the ad that you just heard promoting the book for my store was all AI. So I thought, well, if we could do it with that, can we do it with my actual voice? And so it took a little bit of time to upload every episode of this podcast that I had done previous, and it analyzed my voice and spit out that clone. There were some telltale signs. I think if you listen to it, you can tell in certain areas that it was AI. But what really impressed me was how natural sounding it made me by using ums and ahs. So if you go back and listen, there are a couple times where I stumble or say or ah. I obviously didn't actually do that. It was the AI that put that into the script for my voice clone to do, to make it seem more relevant. So I was really impressed. I did an entire episode. Nothing that you heard in that episode was actually me speaking. It was all AI. But again, I think as AI gets more advanced, we're going to start to see things like that becoming more prevalent. But I think if you listen to it, you'll be able to tell it wasn't me, it was AI. And so I don't think we're there yet. I think we're seeing some of that with the AI image generation that we're seeing as well. OpenAI, which is the owner of ChatGPT, just came out with their image generation platform, and it was so popular they've actually stopped logins, so people can't create new accounts right now because everybody's wanting to do it. But you can still tell. We're not at the point yet where that's going to be a replacement for shooting actual video, but it's getting pretty close. I think 2025 could be it. We'll see. It's December of 2024. We'll check back in a year from now and see how the technology is, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. But I think what that shows us is just how much AI is now being used. Apple just released a new update for the iPhone and Mac and iPad softwares that integrates ChatGPT and AI right directly into your device. And more people are using AI to help with content. And so if you work in PR or communications, like I have done and do now, you'd be silly not to use AI to help you. But I think where you get tripped up potentially is when you rely on AI to do all of the work and you don't go back in and fine tune. And so over the last 6 months or so, since I've started my business, I've been experimenting with AI and using AI to help me with social media posts, with drafting proposals for clients, with coming up with calendars for how I can schedule posts in advance or remind myself about meetings. And so I'm starting to get familiar with some of the phrasing, some of the words, and some of the telltale signs that content is generated by AI. And I've started to see it now on LinkedIn and social media, even in press releases that I've received from some PR contacts. I even got a quote from an organization that I won't mention that was dealing with some breaking news. And I could tell just reading the quote from that was attributed to the CEO of that organization that was written by AI. I don't fault them for it. I get, especially if you're in a crisis communication situation, you want to get something out quickly. There's no sense in going back and forth and getting the wording right when you could just spit something out or have something prepared in advance. But there are ways that you can go back in and finesse that to make it sound a little bit more human. So we're going to go through some of those. So the first thing I really notice a lot when it comes to ChatGPT is that it loves overly polished phrases. So some of the main ones that I've seen is something like it talks about a fast-paced world. In today's fast-paced digital world, in the fast-paced world of news. So fast-paced is one that usually is a red flag that it's been generated by AI. Most people don't say that. So if you are using AI, go back through and rework that. In today's fast-paced world is a pretty easy sign. Let's delve into, or let's dive into. AI loves delve and dive. And that is something that I think people use somewhat regularly in conversation, but you can usually tell if we're diving into something. It may sound professional, but it lacks personality. So an easy thing to do is just swap those out for real conversational language. So instead of saying in conclusion, you can say, here's the bottom line, finally, to wrap this up, stuff like that. The second thing you really kind of see is repetitive sentence structure. So AI generated content kind of has a predictable rhythm. So you see a lot of sentences that start the same way or kind of use some similar phrasing. So mix that up, go back through, use a variety of sentence lengths or some different styles that can kind of keep your audience engaged. That's an easy one. I see a lot of overuse or misuse of emojis. Emojis are big in AI generated content, especially when you're asking it to draft something for social media. If you have a new product launch, if you use the word launch, it's going to put a bunch of rockets out there. If you have an announcement, it's going to be the megaphones. There's usually several smiley faces or stars, or if you're promoting a blog, you're going to get a book in there. There's just a lot of emojis that can go in. It goes a little overboard, and it places them awkwardly in the middle of sentences where you probably wouldn't normally do that. So just be real intentional with your emojis. If it gives you a bunch of emojis, use one or two. You don't have to use any. I've taken them out completely, but certainly use them sparingly and only when they kind of help enhance the message. And then here's another dead giveaway. I see this one a lot, and I've seen it with some Chamber of Commerce posts recently. ChatGPT will use asterisks for emphasis. So it'll put in an asterisk before or after a word, maybe in the middle of some bullet points or near some bullet points. And so then if you're copying and pasting that directly from ChatGPT onto Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, those asterisks can make you look unfinished, like you didn't go back through and reread it, because clearly you didn't. I don't know why you would keep those in there, but I've been seeing that a lot, especially on company and, like I said, Chamber of Commerce pages. So keep an eye on that. Just go back through, edit those up, format any of those quirks. If there's emphasis that you're wanting to make, use bold or italicized text, and that'll get the job done. AI content loves to be generic and it lacks specificity. So that's kind of another sign that you are looking or reading at AI generated content. So it can be vague. It can rely on phrases like such as, for example, including but not limited to, but then it doesn't go further and provide any concrete examples. Usually because ChatGPT is kind of creating it on the go and doesn't really know any specific examples. So if you put in the prompt to begin with that you want to include specific examples and then give it those specific examples, it can make that a little bit smoother. But the easiest thing to do is just to go back in and add, specific details or maybe some personal experiences. If you're writing a blog about an issue with, if you're in PR and you are writing a blog about how to best work with journalists, you may want to go through and put in a couple personal stories on what you've done and how your experience is going to be unique, that somebody else using ChatGPT can't get. So you don't have to rewrite the whole thing, but certainly put in a couple of personal sentences and that'll make a big difference. It's funny, as a journalist using ChatGPT, one of the things that I've been trained to do in my personal life, in my social media life, certainly in my work life, is to be neutral. As a journalist, I'm not allowed to take sides publicly, including even on my personal pages. And the reason for that is because it can influence how people view the content that we work on or that we produce. If you know how I feel about a certain topic, you are going to assume that that's going to shine through in the work that I produce. And so as a journalist, it's your job to be neutral. It's one of the things that we don't get to leave at the office. We take it home with us. And it's really important, especially in this day and age when everything on social media comes back to haunt you. It actually is a great thing to have instilled in us, is that we don't take sides. Social media is squeaky clean. But on the flip side of that, that's a sign that you've used ChatGPT, because the AI content is not going to take a side either. It's pretty neutral, and it will go out of its way not to take a stance on something. So if you are not a journalist and you have the ability to express an opinion, if perhaps you work for a nonprofit that has a specific mission and it's clear what your side is because you are addressing a problem, it's not going to give you that side. So go back through, insert your opinion, insert what the stance is of your organization or your leadership, talk about your mission and why it's important, give it some context, but go out of your way to make it take a side, because if you keep it generic, it's not going to do you any good. I think now is such a good time to get involved with AI, and I'm so glad that I've started this process and this journey for myself a little bit earlier, because it makes me understand the AI process a lot more than some of my peers outside of work. I think in our business that we work in, we're really embracing AI, and as PR and comms professionals, I've seen a lot of that. There's no reason to spend all day writing press releases when you can have AI help you with that and get you started. It can certainly give you an outline that then you have to go back in and tweak. Again, your quotes should be unique. The specifics of the message you're trying to get out can be unique, but you can certainly use ChatGPT to get you started if you're struggling. It can help you brainstorm ideas. I saw a poll recently that it was a pretty low, I can't remember off the top of my head, I want to say it was in the 20s. 20% of people are currently using AI and feel comfortable with it. And so that's pretty low. But I think as we see these updates that I mentioned earlier in iOS and in Microsoft, if you use 365, we're starting to see some AI integration there as well. We're starting to see text message apps provide summaries very quickly, and it's doing that with AI. Most of us have smart speakers, Alexa devices, or whatever the case may be, and those are all AI. Self-driving cars, if you have cruise control that can detect where another vehicle is in front of you and slow your car down, which I have in mind, that's AI. So AI is all around us. We shouldn't be scared of it. And I think we're at a point where a lot of people say, well, we don't want to be like iRobot. We don't want the robots taking over. And I think now that I've gone through AI training, I understand where we are in the timeline of AI. And although it seems like AI technology is moving forward very quickly, and it is, we are nowhere near AI being able to take over. It may seem like we are, especially when Tesla just came out with their new robot that seems like it can do it all. There are questions about whether or not there was a person controlling that remotely, but that's another discussion. But I don't think we're there yet. I think AI is something that should be embraced. There are easy ways for PR and comms and media people to use AI to enhance their day-to-day lives. We're not at a point where it's going to take our jobs. It's going to help us improve ourselves and our performance. I'm a big believer in that. But again, there are some simple things that you can do to make your AI content more human, and we discussed some of those. I have some more examples on my AI blog on my website at scotmediatulsa.com, Scott with one T, SCOT, scotmediatulsa.com. You can go in there and get some more examples. I encourage you to mess around with it, embrace it, don't be scared of it. AI is here to stay, and I think the faster you learn how to use it, the more it's going to help you get ahead of the game. It's going to increase your PR. It's going to increase your communication skills. It's going to make you a leader in your industry and in your group, and I think that's great. I can't believe Christmas is coming up soon, so I'm probably going to take a break from the podcast for the duration of the year. So we'll have a couple weeks off, but I'm really excited about some changes that are going to be coming in January. So more on that to come. For 2024, though, this is the end. Thank you all so much for listening. For everyone who has talked about this or subscribed, it really has been a great journey so far in 2024. I'm really looking forward to the new year and what lies ahead. So thanks for listening to this episode of Press Play. We'll see you next year.